Rev up your engines!
Well, the first major car maker to stop production in the USA due to tariffs, their assembly lines are shut down on May 12th, and it is Mazda. They make them in Alabama for the Canadian market, and they say they're not going to make any more for the Canadian market until something is done about these tariffs. Mazda confirmed that it's going to halt production of CX-50 Mazda vehicles that are bound for Canada. Mazda says they're going to stop May 12th on the Huntsville, Alabama plant. That's where they build the CX-50 car for North American market. They say the Canadians are going to sell what they have, of course, until they run out, and then they're not going to send anymore. Mazda says, being political here, maintaining fair trade and economic stability globally and within the North American market is extremely important. And we hope that the trade situation will be resolved quickly. But they're shutting it down for the time being, not sending them to Canada because the tariffs going back and forth. Everybody's arguing about it, right? Now, granted, they only sold 14,000 of them in Canada last year. It's not a big, gigantic market, right? So I guess they're picking something that, okay, we'll do it with the small amount of stuff that we're selling. They're still making them and selling them in the United States. They sold about 45,000 Mazda CX-50s in the United States last year. It's a lot more than they sold in Canada. They're still making those. Well, it's now confirmed that Nissan is going to have a Frontier plug-in hybrid because they're understanding people like the hybrids. They don't want an all-EV pickup truck. Those have all miserably failed. Hardly any of them sold. Of course, the biggest failure of them all was the Cybertruck, which is a massive failure. But the Ford F-150 Lightning's a failure. The Chevy Silverado electric truck is a dramatic failure. One year, they sold less than 1,000 of them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Why are they even making the stupid things, right? Well, Frontier is going to be a plug-in hybrid where they got a big battery. They can drive a certain amount of miles on electricity, but mainly they're hybrid vehicles, so they're more efficient. They get better gas mileage, and that is what pickup truck guys want, right? They want something that can go a long distance and never be stranded. Because even though it's a plug-in hybrid, you can plug it into your house, charge it up, drive maybe 40, 50 miles, whatever, on electricity, and then it switches back to hybrid. But it'll have a bigger range because it's a combo of the two. And when you run out of electricity, it doesn't matter because then it runs on a gasoline engine running things. So, smart move. The only problem is it's Nissan. And when are they saying this is going to happen? Oh, maybe in 2-3 years from now, right? They don't even tell you the specs of the thing because it's just, they say, we're going to build this thing, right? They don't even say where they're going to build the thing and what, kind of setup it's going to be. Just, so we're going to build a plug-in hybrid. Nissan is showing your true colors of you're too late to the party. Everyone else is already doing this stuff, and now they're coming out with, we're going to have a plug-in hybrid too, right? Now, it's a good idea. Granted, here's the other thing that makes it kind of hilarious. They should just start out with a regular hybrid because if you look at figures in the United States, plug-in hybrids are the lowest sales of them all, right? Regular hybrids, they sell quite a bit of them because people like them. But the plug-ins, their sales are really low. More than 5 times as many regular hybrids were sold than plug-in hybrids in the United States the last quarter of 2024. So that tells you people aren't that into the plug-in hybrids. They cost more. And as I warn people, it's a different technology. Since they don't have a little regular hybrid battery, they got a much bigger one. They're big, they're heavy, they have to be under the car. If you live in a saltwater area in the north where they throw salt on the roads for the winter, you live near a coast of the salt ocean, right? It's going to destroy that stuff. They've had problems with them because the battery's on the bottom and all the salt and the water gets into and corrodes them, and then you got to replace parts that if they were inside the car wouldn't happen, but they can't put them inside the car because they weigh too much. They'd be up too high. There wouldn't be as much room inside the car. They wouldn't handle right, so they put them on the bottom. That is a fully electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid with a giant battery. The regular hybrids, no. They got the batteries inside the cars. They're sealed. Look at Toyota Priuses. I've seen some of them with 400,000 miles. They're still going down the road with the original battery. They don't have corrosion problems. So, maybe they should have started with a regular hybrid first. Well, Tesla reported a 20% drop in auto revenue in the first quarter. They didn't meet what Wall Street said they were going to make. The revenue plunged 20% from the year before. And of course, if you've been following it, the stock has dropped 41% this year so far. Their automotive revenue dropped 20% from last year. Their net income plummeted 71% to $409 million. Now, they keep saying this company, Tesla, is worth all these billions and billions of dollars, but their net income was only $409 million. That just doesn't make sense. in terms of business. In 2024, Tesla briefly reached a peak of $1.3 trillion. If their net income was only $409 million, it's squirrely, right? Now, why is the company worth that much money? It's kind of ridiculous. This is all smoke and mirrors, people. Let me tell you, all smoke and mirrors. Well, we're worth all this money, but we only make this little bit of money, right? This valuation is absurd. At some point, it's got to come back to the real world. Well, now Donald Trump says that China tariffs will come down substantially. Those are his exact words. Hinting at a U-turn. And of course, now the stock markets and Asian stuff are starting to go up, right? It's getting to a point of you don't know what's happening from one day to the next. Guess Elon Musk says he's going to stop down from the Department of Government because his Tesla company's going down the toilet. I mean, if he gets more involved in Tesla like he had originally, hey, it'll probably go down even further. He doesn't know what he's doing with cars. He doesn't know anything about cars, right? He doesn't know anything about the automotive business. He doesn't know much about Americans either, you know? One thing my father taught me in the business world that I always remember, he said, when it comes to business, don't get involved in talking about politics or religion, right? Because those are people's personal preferences. You don't need to do it in the business world. So what did Trump say? He said 145% is very high. It won't be anywhere near that. It's come down substantially, but it won't be zero. Maybe it'll be 0.15. Who knows, right? And how they're going to enforce this stuff is just another story entirely, right? JP Morgan meeting, he said, instead of a hard break or complete decoupling between the United States and China, the goal is to have a rebalancing of trade. Okay, now let's face the facts. They make stuff cheaper in China. We're never going to balance it. We can't make stuff as cheap as they can and send it over there, right? It's not going to happen. And what's happening right now has nothing to do with Donald Trump or any of these policies. Is China is now the number one car market in the world. They buy more cars than anybody. We used to be number one, United States. Now we're number two, right? And China now has more middle-class people than we have people in the United States. They are going to be the world's largest economy. There's no arguing that. You can see that has nothing to do with tariffs, right? You can't change those dynamics by putting tariffs on it. Because if the Chinese are the biggest market, they're going to have more power because they're buying more stuff than we are. And the world will see it that way. Plus, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because for quite some time, we were the biggest economy in the world. People were buying more crap, right? But it was coming from somewhere else. The Chinese can make their own stuff, right? There's a morass going on. Nobody knows what the tariffs are going to be and what's going on. But, hey, when the chips finally fall, it'll lead to interesting times. I'll say that much. Well, the scientists are at it again. They're promising stuff that we don't know if it's real or not, but they now say there's a U.S. breakthrough which is going to set China back in the race for lithium. And what it is they're figuring a way to get lithium out of real briny water. The United States depends on 60% of the processed lithium coming from China. They use it for batteries, for storage, batteries for electric vehicles. There's a new development that says they have a revolutionary electrochemical process that can do 97.5% of the lithium out of brine solutions. So the United States won't be dependent on foreign lithium, right? It's a very complex thing. They use different membranes, different systems, right? But listen, people, this is not a promised set in stone process that actually works because, of course, as per usual with all this electric crap, it's experimental. Now, natural brines are saltwater deposits that are found in geothermal environments. Right? How many of those are around? Nobody knows. So now they'll be able to take lithium out of these deposits. But, and that's always a giant but, right? Listen to this. One of the main hurdles of the system is the buildup of sodium ions, which impede lithium and increase energy consumption. So now the researchers, what are they doing? They're trying to adjust the current levels, the amount of electricity they use, different surface coatings, and using pulse currents to try to make this reactor that makes it work better. So in other words, this stuff doesn't really work that well. Right? You probably got a little bitty thing. Look, we made some lithium out of this, and it's 97.5% pure. Look how good it works. And it's a little thing about this big. Just like those fusion reactors. We're getting electricity from the fusion, the power of the sun, right? Then you find out, oh yeah, it did it for like 2 seconds. Or one of them, they set a new record, and it did it for like 20 minutes or something, right? These things are totally experimental. It'll be a long time before they start getting lithium, if ever. Are there enough brine deposits, right? And how much electricity is this going to take? Realize this is all energy dependent. You're trying to get batteries to save stuff, right? But you got to use all this energy to create the lithium, to create the batteries, and using electricity for that. So, a lot of this is the dragon chasing its tail. Right? What happens if it catches its tail and bites its own tail off, right? Most of the stuff is so theoretical. Make your head spin. But of course, then they say, oh, look, we're not going to be dependent on China. They don't even know if this stuff works at any large level. They already admit there's problems that they're working on. But like, where are they going to find all these brine deposits from? They're just lying all over the place, right? Well, it looks like Toyota and Daimler are nearing the merger of their truck units. They're going to merge back, but then they had that big scandal with the diesels and Toyotas cheating on emissions, so that put it in the back burner for a while. Toyota Motor Company is in talks to merge its Hino Motors truck unit with Mitsubishi Fuso truck and bus, which is a subsidiary of Daimler. They want to make a holding company for truck units, potentially listing a new company on the Tokyo stock market by April 2026. So it's a year from now. Now, if you don't know, luxury cars are the snob thing. They make a lot of different trucks. People drive all over the world, diesel ones, and Toyota with the Hino does too. That's just what they call their truck unit. Toyota calls it Hino. So it makes sense to consolidate something like that, right? They're both making the same type of vehicles. If they consolidated it, made it its own company, and started over, it would make a lot of sense. Why would you have one company that specializes in larger diesel trucks affiliated with a car company? It really doesn't make any sense, right? Take Rolls-Royce for an example. Decades ago, Rolls-Royce, the company that makes cars, split off from Rolls-Royce, the company that makes jet engines, which makes a fortune, right? Fly around, you'll see a lot of the jets you're in those have a Rolls-Royce engine. They're excellent engines, right? Unlike their cars. Then later, the car division got sold to BMW, and now they're just basically rebadged BMWs. But the Rolls-Royce jet engines, they're flying. They're making a lot of money, just like the Mercedes truck division is. So, merging with Toyota, pretty good idea. Now, might not be for a year from now, unless something else comes up that stops it, but sounds like a smart idea to me. Well, California is now exploring a per-mile road charge as the gas tax revenue keeps declining, right? People are buying less gas. They have more electrification in other places like California. And let's say, even if people say, well, I'm going to take a bus or whatever instead, the roads are still there and they need to be fixed, right? So they're now exploring a per-mile road charge as you're driving. Well, only in California. What are they going to bring back? The old days of the old toll roads where somebody had a bar sitting across the road and you had to pay them, then they'd open the bar and every so many miles you had to keep paying. Well, it's so hard up for money there. Now that's their next scheme. The California Department of Transportation recently completed a pilot study to examine how they could get more money, because they're getting less money from people buying gasoline, to fix the roads. Well, as we all know, how are they going to collect this? Think of the giant bureaucratic mess, right? People would be cheating on their odometers. They'd either turn them off or roll them back so they don't have to pay a tax. Kind of a ridiculous idea, but of course all these ridiculous ideas come from California. As long as they stay there, I don't care. Just don't bring them to me, I don't want them. We pay enough taxes as it is. Do we need even more taxes? Because we all know what happens with government taxes. Once they instate them, they never go away. For instance, the IRS, they were instituted a tax well over 100 years ago, and it was supposed to be a temporary 1% tax. Oh, it's just temporary to pay for the war, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? It's permanent. It's here. So I'm against more taxes for anything that they're trying to make us, the little people, pay for it by how many miles you drive, what you're going to pay. And like I say, how would they ever on earth be able to follow people around how many miles they drive, right? I mean, there's so many ways people could cheat something like that. Like I said, you could turn your speedometer off, you could roll it back later, say you didn't drive it all that many miles. It's just getting to be too much. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.